And welcome to the Bushwick Bears. We're coming to you live from Flatbush. This week's episode of the Bushwick Bears Petty Crime Review. I guess from that intro, maybe you can tell what we're talking about.
We're talking about weed, ladies and gentlemen. We got our special guest this week, standout Phil Rizdon.
What up? What up?
And, we're going to see how we rate the petty crime of smoking weed and the petty crime of the state punishing you for smoking weed.
Booyasha!
That's embarrassing.
Please stop doing that.
I don't know of anything pettier, right? Like, there's nobody who thinks weed isn't a petty thing.
I think the thing with weed and specific, and why I think it's an interesting topic for this particular podcast, is that there are people that think weed's super dangerous.
Yeah. That's
There's people that think, even though like scientifically on record, no one's ever OD'd from weed ever in recorded history.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
I try.
No,
we've all tried. I think so. At one point or
I've
another.
gotten some really bad headaches. Welcome to the show, Phil, by the way.
Hi, yeah. We'll try
I know, we didn't do an intro. I wouldn't play to the camera because we record it for like putting it on YouTube, but I feel like, I don't know, almost all the listens are on Spotify or audio
Spotify or
only.
iTunes.
Okay.
But it's good to have it on YouTube in case anybody finds you after the fact.
Yeah, they want to see it, you know. Like, I have old, that's funny you brought that up because I've been watching a shit ton of YouTube, and I love, like, old podcasts. Like, there used to be the Champs podcast with Neil Brennan and Moshe Kasher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great podcast.
You know, amazing podcast.
Yeah.
I cannot find a live video recording of any of their episodes anywhere. And they used to do it. They used to post it right after they recorded it. It's the most annoying thing. So maybe try to put it on YouTube and just have it there forever.
For posterity.
I do play to the camera.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Right fucking here, man.
Well, for anyone listening who's not watching the camera, we have a guest this week. It is Phil Rizdon. It's very funny stand-up.
What's up, everybody?
Back to play to the camera.
Yeah, like, I'm just going to play. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Let the record
So
show. Phil waved to the camera.
Twice.
No, I had a friend in high school, an acquaintance in high school that literally.
They're still in high school?
What's that?
They're still in high school?
I mean, if they're still alive, that's the level of education he got to. I almost want to say his name. You know what? I am going to say his name because I want, if he's alive, for him to hear this and to come back to me.
Yeah.
His name was Brian Brooks.
There you go.
And his only goal in life at this time in high school was he's like, I want to be the first person to overdose on weed.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, that was his only goal. And he literally would smoke all day, every day. And he would do all the weird, he had gravity bongs and 4-foot bongs and would eat edibles.
Did you ever, like, dip it in embalming fluid or anything?
You know what's
I
funny?
heard that's
as
awesome.
shit?
I was going to say, you're not going to accomplish that smoking it.
Yeah, it can't be like just the weed. It has to be like weed plus
This
something.
was, guys,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm old. This was
Weed plus crack.
1994.
You know?
When I was in high school. The info on weed was much different than it is now.
Also, I mean, no, I remember listening to Cypress Hill in '94.
This is like when Cypress Hill was still killing people and not about weed. That's what level of Cypress Hill this was.
You could still, there was no evidence that anybody had overdosed on weed.
At the time,
No.
especially. And I think still no one ever has.
I think some people were just like, I just want to make this my personality and tune out.
Well, he was like a cartoon character stoner.
It was kind of dangerous though before the internet, or like when the internet was kind of first starting and everything. Like, people still didn't know that much about weed, or the information wasn't just everywhere.
Yeah.
So I remember when I first started smoking weed, like, yeah, it felt kind of dangerous. Like, all I knew was from like sitcoms where they had a special episode about it. Or something.
Right.
Or like immigrant parents. My parents, like, they
Yes.
just didn't really have weed like that in Russia.
Yeah.
And so they just knew what they knew from like kind of propaganda or pop culture stuff.
Yeah, well, the worst part is, I think, is then people like, because in high school they used to always call like weed a gateway drug and stuff like that. And after I did weed, I was like, it is a gateway drug, but only because you're lying about how harsh weed is.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's like once I tried it and learned that it's not harsh at all, it's like, all right, they might be lying about coke and heroin too.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try
the
it.
real gateway drug is alcohol.
Oh yeah, completely.
Oh yeah, because when you're drunk, you'll do anything.
Right, exactly.
You'll
yeah.
sleep with people you never normally would sleep with.
Right,
You're
right,
like,
right. With weed, I'm like, King Crimson rules.
Yeah.
fuck you. That's so good. Did you guys have Dare?
Oh
Yes, we
yeah.
did have Dare.
Oh, yeah.
You're Dare. Okay, we're all aged enough to have Dare.
We had a Dare robot cop police car.
That's hilarious.
It was it was remote controlled. It was giant though, and even though it was like
a short circuit, like
even though it was
Dare robot.
it was a car, and it looked
So
like
many
a Thomas the Tank Engine version of like a cop car, and it had like eyes for windshield or whatever. And even though this was a narc ass robotic car, I was still as a kid was like, cool. They bring in the animated cop car
So
here.
to deter you from doing drugs, they brought you something that you'd probably see on drugs.
Right, yeah. A really cool police officer.
Car with a face.
You know what's
Telling
funny
you
is what deterred me from smoking at first was the first group of kids that I met that like smoked weed really were kind of dirtbags.
Yeah.
And I hung out with
Yeah.
these kids and they were kind of dirtbaggy. And I was like, you know what? None of these kids do well in school. They're all like doing other weird shit. They're doing other hard drugs. They're like, this one kid had like, there was like a story about him like coming on the same like gaming chair that he had and just like coming on it over and over. And so everybody just knew this gaming
That
That
chair.
would have made me never touch weed either.
Right. And this guy's like rolling my joints or whatever. So I never smoked. And then I started hanging out with some other kids who were like, some of them were in honors classes. They seem, and I'm like, oh, they smoke too. Like weed's the common denominator for everybody. It has nothing to do with like being delinquent.
I was already doing bad, so I'm like, well, I might as well be getting high.
You were the one keeping me from smoking.
Yeah,
at
he
the
was
time.
he was the one that was coming on his gaming chair. The Dare shit worked on me when I was little, because my mom was like a kind of a hippie, right?
Yeah.
And so, I was talking about this last night with some friends. It's always the smell of a Nong Champa incense just always reminds me of parents trying to act like they don't know we know they're smoking weed.
Yeah.
That's what that
Right,
smell
yeah.
it means to me.
Incense in a white person's house means they smoke.
Yeah, 100% they smoke weed.
Without a doubt, yeah.
But I remember my mom always kept it a secret, and I was little, and my mom had just bought like an ounce of weed, and I knew her secret hiding spot, and the Dare program had me so brainwashed that I went. I grabbed her bag of weed, locked myself in the bathroom, and flushed it down the toilet.
Oh.
And you thought you were
man.
No, my mom tells this story. She's like, I was crying, and I was like, "You're gonna die!" That's what I was screaming through the bathroom. At first, my mom's like pissed.
Yeah.
She's like, "What? You taking my weed?" But I'm sitting. Then she's like, "See, because I was little. Like I'm talking 8, 9 years
you're
old.
like a
Yeah.
little
I was like a
kid.
little kid, and I was like crying and screaming. They said you're gonna die, and I flushed her weed down the toilet. I think my mom called the school and like some heads rolled. My
Yeah,
mom,
you fucking
she's like,
psychos.
"Fuck! What are you
Yeah,
guys telling my kid?"
Yeah, don't bring your morals into my household.
I spent $250 on that ounce of weed. Dude. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
right.
now I gotta
can't
homeschool my
make rent.
kid because you got him throwing my drugs out.
Yeah, right. What the fuck? Like,
I never
God.
another thing about weed back in the day too, like when we're talking about like when the internet, we didn't know how bad weed was. Weed wasn't nearly as strong as it is now.
yes, that's absolutely
Right,
true.
yeah.
That's
Like
absolutely
Mexican
fucking
brick
true.
weed,
Yeah.
you're literally like, I just remember being like in high school, and you would be like, you just smoke, you could smoke a whole ounce in a session and still drive
Yeah.
away.
Yes, I know.
Right,
What you, mean.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
You
yeah.
would smoke multiple blunts in a day.
Just
Right,
yeah.
yeah. And I mean, really, at a certain point, you just get a fucking headache from it. you know?
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember growing up. My big thing was my family, my parents especially, were like, "Don't do weed because it's a gay." My dad was a heroin addict, so they
Yeah.
were like, "If you do weed, someday you'll be a heroin addict."
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I've never tried heroin, and like,
or fatherhood for that matter.
right, yeah, yeah. So I won twice over. Like I beat both expectations.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think if I hadn't smoked weed ever, I would probably be a mathematician, but I'll settle on being marginally unsuccessful.
I'll tell you what, on that same note, I think at least in lots of periods of my life, the most harmful effect potentially of smoking weed is having that excuse to tell myself, or like, if I wasn't smoking weed, I'd be doing this, or like
Right.
See, that's the problem. People put weed on a fucking pedestal.
Totally.
You ever notice that where it's like, I feel like with weed identities, it's either like someone's like a loser, misfit person, or like they're the Carl Sagan guy who does mad weed and just sees the stars and the numbers in the universe.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, most of us just smoke weed and we're regular fucking people.
People in the
Come late to work.
I hate potheads and pothead culture.
Yeah.
Oh, big
Yeah.
time.
Like
Me
this
too.
shit, dude.
White people with dreadlocks can go fuck themselves.
White people with dreadlocks, dude. You guys know, it's so funny that you said that. My house, we've never had like. It was always probably an unspoken rule, but the other day we're like, hey, look, can I say one thing? A white, because we have a big house with like 5 bedrooms. I was like, a white person with dreadlocks can never live in this house. I've made it a spoken
Very
rule
fair.
now.
Very
I'm
fair.
like, okay, that's one thing, because I don't want to listen to like Sublime, and I don't want to fucking smell patchouli, like, you know, weed people like pothead, like weed aficionados are some of the most annoying
They are.
people on
they
the
are.
planet that I have. It's a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
Like it
depends where, actually. So I was saying, like, my brother works in the industry, and we met this kid in Pennsylvania, this like 17-year-old who was the son of somebody that we were working with. And he's like talking all this like turpentines, all this like shit about weed, where I'm like,
weed
I don't
sommeliers.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm
dude.
like, I don't even know what he's talking about. And my brother's like, honestly, like, he seems super knowledgeable, but it's pretty funny because you go to California and it's like every other 17-year-old is like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're all like trying to work on weed farms,
Yeah,
and they're
like,
all
making tincture and shit.
yeah, and they're like
Yeah.
learning the chemistry and like whatever about it.
What's the percentage of this? Is this a what season was this grown? Is this it? Like so many. It's like people are like, it's so annoying. Back in the day,
Just weed.
you just went like you'd go to the dealer, and it wasn't like there was a variety.
Nope.
You're like, here.
Give me the good one.
What,
Yeah.
what it also goes to show, though, too, like, is how much we've changed culturally. Because when I was 17, if you knew that much about weed, you were a huge drug dealer.
Yeah.
And if you got caught with any amount of weed, you were going to jail forever.
Oh, my
So
Dude,
God.
speaking
for
of
a
that,
long time.
Yes.
Yeah. which
speaking
we-
of that,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna do a better segue, but go ahead.
you did.
That was a pretty good
You did
segue.
do it.
That was pretty natural.
We have a running gag about me interrupting Darren.
No, it's okay.
Well, getting into the legal aspect, we've all got different experience with it. And we got Phil on as our guest, and specifically you have experience.
Yes. I got arrested for possession of marijuana like the year 2010, like early 2010 or late 2009.
Yeah.
Before I moved to
Back
New York
when they
City.
were arresting people in New York
Yeah.
for it.
Well, no,
I mean,
it
they
was,
probably
this was
still do,
in,
but
this was in New Jersey, where it's
Oh.
100%. It was 100% illegal at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
time, and then they moved to medical, and now it's completely legal.
yeah.
So it's kind of a big fuck you to me.
It's
Like,
so
Yeah.
fucking
Right. It's
annoying.
like, what? Like if I would have had like bricks of weed, my life would still be over.
right.
I'd still probably be in jail.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and weed would
Yeah.
just be legal.
There
Like,
are
it's
plenty
crazy.
of people in New Jersey still in
Yes,
jail for
yes,
weed.
there are tons. There are tons, dude. It was insane. But yeah, so I'll tell the story. Basically, I had graduated high school. I was in community college at the time, and you know, in Jersey, most people don't. It's probably like other small towns around the U.S. Like most people don't stay in their area after they graduate high school.
Yeah.
They just go to big universities, cities, whatever. I'm alone, so you know, I don't know. I was just like in community college. I was like, my life sucks. Maybe I should buckle down and like try school. Like actually like really work hard at
Make
it.
an effort.
Yeah, like make an
Yeah.
effort. I was like,
did that once.
right? I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to fucking be here anymore. And it's like no one's at, you know, the quick stop anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
it's just me doing kickflips alone in a parking lot. What the fuck is happening? So I'm like, I should try at school. And I had this big math test or some shit. It was like math or science. And I studied all day, like the entire day. And I was like, you know what? I need a reward. I was like, I'm gonna just buy some fucking weed and just smoke and just chill and go to bed early for my math test the next day. This is literally, this isn't like bullshit.
But
like, I
officer,
swear.
my math test.
Right, yeah.
It's completely real, bro. It's completely real. So, so I call my boy, my boy Brian or whatever. He sells bud and all this shit. And you go over to his house, pick it up. It's not even in like a tiny bag. It's in like a sandwich bag.
Yeah, right.
Or
Like
like
a dime
yeah.
of weed in a sandwich
the
bag.
plastic from the cigarette pack that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
burn,
They like
burn at the
burn
end.
and shit. Like, it's one of those fucking things. And I'm driving like my old ass car, and it used to have like a taillight out and all this other shit. And long story short, the cops in my town are dicks, by the way. They stop any kid for
What town in Jersey is this?
Scotch Plains, New Jersey.
Okay.
Oh, I'll say it. Scotch Plains, New
Yeah,
Jersey.
yeah.
Fucking awful. Like, they bought all these cops like Chargers, but like,
Yeah,
the worst thing they have to do is like get a cat out of a tree.
Uh-huh.
So all they do is like stop teenagers.
Oh, Dodge
and-
Charger's the car.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Like, they bought them like Dodge Chargers, all this crazy shit, and they don't do anything. All they do is piss off kids and shit.
Yep.
So me and my friends had gotten in trouble with them before. So I realized, I was like, you got to eat the weed if, they're coming,
Yeah.
So basically that's what happens. So I'm driving. I see the headlights in the background. I get stopped. I pull over kind of discreetly, just shove the weed in my mouth, eat the whole entire fucking thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so he gets to the car. And this is like, I'm way more confident in stuff like now as a person.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
But I'm like, dude, like, I never used to talk in like high school. I was super shy and just like a timid kid. So, this cop's coming over to me and I'm already like, I was doing something illegal.
Right.
And I guess he saw, like, he was just like, what are you doing? There's a taillight out, whatever. But then he's like, I saw you eat something. What did you eat? Or whatever. And I'm like, I ate nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. And he's
Yeah.
like, you ate weed. He said you ate weed. He's like, you ate weed, didn't you? He's like, it's all over your mouth. I'm like, no, I
What do
I
you-
don't feel it. It's not on my mouth. I definitely don't feel any weed on my mouth.
It's like I was such a fat kid. Like I would always like
Yeah, I
even
was
at the
fat
sto-
too. I can feel food.
Yeah, even the store, I told him I was like I would like go in and grab like the Cool Whip out of the thing and just eat it. And I just picture you like with weed all over your mouth. Like, what are you talking about? That's like me eating the ice cream and my grandma being like, "Are you eating ice cream?" And I'm like, "No." Ice cream all over my fucking
That's what he
face.
was trying to make it seem like. And I'm
Right,
like, fuck
yeah.
you. So eventually another cop car comes.
Ooh, fucking
I'm getting
assholes.
pulled out the car. They're like
Right.
tearing everything up and all this shit. And then he just like found the bag. It was empty, but there were like
Uh-huh.
still some specks of weed in it. So then he's just like, we're gonna have to arrest you.
Oh,
And this is like not weed you can light up.
Over
Like
that
specks,
bag.
green
yeah,
specks of weed.
over
yeah.
that bag. Yeah.
Over the bag,
Yeah.
and so I'm putting the back of the car, all this shit. My car is still on the side of the
Yeah.
road, and now that I'm arrested, he's like, but dude, like I did see you eat the weed, whatever. Like, are you okay? He's kind of acting concerned or something. So
Classic
which is a
cop
lie.
It's
trick.
all an act. It's all
all
a
an
play,
act.
Yeah.
all a fucking act. But I fell for it, and I was like, oh, I did fucking eat it or something. And I didn't get in any more trouble.
Yeah.
He just was like vindicated. Like,
Yeah.
I was wrong. And all this shit. He wanted me to tell who sold it. I didn't say anything like that. I ended up using my one phone call to call one of my boys to pick me up from jail so I could get my car and all that shit.
Yeah.
And that was about it. I got fingerprinted, got the whole pictures, everything. What's funny is that kid, the guy who arrested me, knew my brother in high school. And my brother was like a state champion wrestler.
Yeah.
So he like knew my brother in high school. And you can tell he was like one of those dudes that was like a nerdy piece of shit. So that's why he became a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And you can
many
tell
of
he was
those.
like, oh, so you're like Kevin's brother. You can tell you like liked my brother. And it's like, you don't want me telling him about this. Who gives a fuck? My brother's
You're
like
a
35.
cop. You're a cop now.
Yeah, dude. Like my brother's 35. He doesn't come here ever. You're a fucking
Yeah.
loser.
Maybe like in the movies they make it seem, and maybe it was back in the day, but I've been having run-ins with the cops since literally like 1990. And never once has a cop ever been like, "Oh, I'll let you off with a warning." Oh, I know your brother. Yeah, you know what, dude? Fucking suck it up. Maybe don't smoke weed. Go home. They never, no. In the movies, they never do that. Cops are always gonna, like, literally. I had a friend get a DUI, and it was like our really good friend's roommate. The guy like we used to roll with all the time, and we hung out with, and he still was like, and the guy literally was driving someone else home because he had really, like, out of a movie, had 2 glasses of wine at dinner. He's like, oh, I'm not even drunk. I'll drive you home. And got a DUI from our friend.
Wow.
Who would become a cop. I was like, you fucking asshole.
Fucking nerd.
You're like, really? He's like, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm fucking fine. Like, drive. No, I'm still going to blow test you. And then he got a fucking DUI. The cop literally was like, oh, yeah, take your drunk friend home. Have a great night.
Wait, so how did it end up? Did you get? It was just was it even possession? Like, what do you get charged with?
It was technically. So basically, what happened was, so like you're saying, they're never cool. Like he didn't know I was my brother's brother and let me go. He just arrested me and talked to me about
your brother. About your cool
for like
wrestler
2 hours. Yeah,
brother.
How awesome my brother is.
That was your punishment, is having to
locked
live
in a room with this man who loves my brother way too much.
Your sentence is living in the shadow of your brother for the next 2 hours of conversation.
It's fucking terrible. But long story short, like what happened, like my friend picks me up, all that shit. I just went home and I didn't tell my parents. Like I didn't tell my mom or my grandma. I kept on trying to intercept the mail. You know?
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And like just one day it happened where like it just came home and my grandma saw it.
What's
And
this?
What's this? And it was over. But yeah, nothing really happened. Like I basically, had to go to court. I got like a little bit of like probation or whatever. It was my first offense too.
So it doesn't stay on your record. It's
yeah,
like
and I was under
pre-trial.
17. I was under 18.
Oh, good,
Yep.
good, yeah.
So it was like that, and I had to go to probation, but I was planning on moving to New York City anyway at the time. This happened like 2 months before I moved to New York. So so I went to probation only once, and I told her I'm moving to New York City next month, whatever. And she was like, oh, it's okay. Like, I read your file. It seems like bullshit. And she was like, just stay out of trouble, but you probably won't have to come back here. She's like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's like the one time like the system like was okay.
Oh, she did, because you could tell it was in the neighboring town of like Plainfield, and like this lady was like a social probation worker for everyone in the county.
Yeah.
So it's like she's seen real shit.
Right.
And
I shouldn't have time for.
Yeah, some kid who got caught with an empty plastic
An empty
bag.
bag of weed. Well, that's just what the cops do. Like I mean, I had a friend that was like arguing with someone on the train, and a cop was there, and the cop like grabbed him and just patted him down and found like a dusty old bag in his pocket that was just empty, and still the cop he had to spend the night in jail.
Oh man, let me tell you, this is recently enough that I won't give too many details of who's involved.
I know, right?
But long enough ago where it like doesn't really matter. But my buddy and I were in Staten Island, and I met up with him, and he was driving, and why it's a little too recent to mention it because he was a little drunk, and
and he hit a child.
So we met up, we smoked. We went to a diner, and then after the diner, we were driving in Staten Island. He was driving. Like I said, he's still somewhat drunk. I don't think we're that stoned anymore, but maybe like a little bit.
My favorite.
And
This guy has
so
the spins and he's behind the wheel.
and we got pulled over, and 2 cops on either side at the same time. I'd never had this happen. They go on both sides, one shining a flashlight at me, one shining a flashlight at him. Both of them, and they're like interviewing us. They're like, "Where are you coming from?" And we're both like a diner. They're like, "Why is there a McDonald's bag on the floor?" and I'm like, "Detective, because someone went to McDonald's sometime earlier." Who knows how long that bag's been there? So they found an empty bag, weed bag, but like with like dust, And I mean, they took us both out of the car. They popped the trunk. Like there was, and technically, like they have to get your permission to do anything.
Well,
but
that's probable cause now.
I guess.
I have a great story after this.
They patted us down. They took us out. They're screaming at us. I was like, sure. I knew we didn't have anything in the car.
Of course.
And they were like basically operating under the assumption that yes, they do, and we're gonna find it.
No matter what.
And so they were like, super aggressive with us. But again, to be fair, my buddy that was driving was kind of drunk and was like had like a decent. I was like, he's pretty ballsy right now, but also probably a little drunk because he was like giving him shit, and I was like, I wasn't like, we were adults already. I wasn't like super scared because I knew there was nothing in the car. But
And
I'm
you're like guaranteed you're gonna get arrested if you keep running
right,
around.
right.
Yeah.
And so, but
Right.
eventually, when they didn't find anything, they were just like frustrated. And they were like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
yeah.
And we just left. And I
Yeah.
was kind of like,
Nothing better than that.
I do love that.
Yeah.
I want to go
That
like
cop
this.
frustration.
When
Yeah.
you're driving
Get outta
away,
here.
I really that's all. Every time that like a cop fucks with me and there's nothing going on, I literally just want to go like,
"You want to," but at that point, we were
No.
so relieved.
Yeah,
No,
that's
of
because
course.
that's exactly how they
dude,
arrest
I've
you.
literally had the shit beat out of me by cops many times, like
Yeah.
physically beaten the shit out of. I will not. That's in my head.
Yeah. Oh, you can't because as soon as you do, then that gives
No, the
them
first
probable
time,
cause to do
I
everything.
mouthed
Yep.
off to a cop, my hands were up against the wall. I was a teenager, and my hands were up against the wall, and he was patting me down, and he said something, and I made a joke back at him, and he literally just punched me in the kidney.
Oh.
Full grown man. I was 15, and he so just punched me in the kidney, and I didn't fall down, but I almost fell down. His
Yeah.
partner even was like, "Whoa, what was that all about?" He's like, "Kid's a fucking smartass," and I was like,
I think it depends where, because I got kicked out of. This is not related to weed at all, but my friend's parents still remember this and brought this up at my wedding.
"Oh, fun."
That
Oh,
I
wow.
got me and my best friend. I got us banned from Menlo Park Mall in
That's
Edison,
hilarious.
New Jersey.
You're from New Jersey? I didn't
Yeah.
know. Oh, okay.
For 6, not far from Scotch Plains.
Oh,
and
really?
similar cause. So Edison's like famous for corrupt. There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
movie called Edison with who's in it? Like LL Cool J, I think.
That's hilarious.
About and they filmed it in Canada because they didn't want like something with like directly filming in
They
Edison
get
or whatever.
sued or
Right.
Something like
Yeah.
that, but it's like like there are too many stories to list right now. But when I was
Jersey cops are the
probably
worst.
like
God, they're
really, really young, like innocent kid, but just a little fucking shit.
Yeah.
A mall cop, and it turned out to be a real cop. But me and my buddy walked up to him, and I was looking for a job at the mall. So I must have been like 13, maybe 14. And I was like, "Do you have I have no idea what was going on in my head, but I asked him if he had any applications to be a mall cop, and he's like,
That's
I'm like
hilarious.
literally interrupting him as he's talking to somebody, and this was not long after the Amadou Diallo stuff, and
Yeah,
after
yeah.
he said, "Get out of here," I go, "What are you gonna do? Stick a plunger up my ass?" Literally, like right around that time,
Christ.
and he grabbed. Actually, first we walked away, and we're like laughing, and we thought we were just like, man,
Thought it
I.
was over.
And
No.
out of
Nope.
nowhere, he comes up and fucking grabs us and takes us to the little like room that they have
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
mall.
God.
Makes our parents pick us up,
Ooh.
and it's like, and they said we came back because I was like, what are they gonna pass
Yeah,
out our
I
fucking
mean,
photo
yeah,
around the
no.
mall?
Yeah.
But because both of our parents had to pick us up, and they were, I mean, yeah, they still remember it. As an adult, they brought it up at my wedding. And
Oh,
like,
Dude.
if you were older or black, he would have just beat the shit
Yeah,
out of you.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And also, like, I was like literally interrupting him as he was trying to talk to somebody about like a problem.
Yeah.
Or,
Trying
like
to hold
literally,
authority, and
yeah.
you just came and just bitch slapped him
Yeah.
verbally.
as like a child.
And like a 13-year-old kid, and you probably look like you were 10. You look, you know,
snarky
Right,
as
yeah.
fuck.
your
and
little
just being
13-year-old kid walks
clumsy.
up and just serves in this cop, like
Like,
without
what
a
the
care in
fuck?
the world. This
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
drops the mic on
La,
this
la, la.
cop.
If it
yeah.
were today, I would have had a great TikTok.
Oh
Yes.
my god.
Yes,
dude.
you would have.
But yo, the story I was gonna tell is like, cause I've been in trouble with weed in New Jersey so many different times with my friends.
Yeah.
Just like that, kind of, you know what you were saying before with like the McDonald's bag and shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one time, you know, it was like a Saturday night, and there was about like 8 of us. So you know, like 2-3 different cars. We're all coordinating where to go. You know,
Uh-huh.
we smoked a shit ton of weed. We go to Quick Check, which is like Wawa, whatever,
Yeah.
Quick Stop, whatever. Get sandwiches, all this shit. We ate there, and then we were gonna meet some people at another park. This is so fucking high school. You just
Yeah.
keep going from park to park.
Or like
Yeah.
in the
Right,
middle of
yeah.
the woods,
I
just
miss,
vibing.
I miss those days.
Just a
were
circle
fun
smoking
days.
a
Those were
blunt
so
in the
great.
woods.
You know, there's
Yeah.
another place of land over here. Where no one can
There's
tell
a
us to
parking
leave.
lot
Yep.
there. We
So-
can hang out.
Right, yeah, it's the
Yeah.
most suburban shit ever. So we go over there, and we were gonna like meet up and smoke weed again that night. So we're at the parking lot, and all of a sudden, a cop car rolls up, and we're all just high as fuck in the car, and we're worried. So we're like, "Yo, like it's okay. We don't have any weed on us right now." And we tell the driver, we're like, "Just tell him we were just at Quick Check." Remember? Because we were at Quick Check and we had no weed. Just tell him the truth.
It's the truth.
But you're so high, you don't really know what the truth is. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And the cop fucking, you know, tells him to roll down the window. And my friend just goes like, sorry, officer, we're just coming from Wendy's.
Just volunteers alive.
And there's like quick check shit everywhere.
You're like eating a sandwich and
Yeah,
quick check
dude.
on it.
And he picks up this like old Wendy's fry holder. And he goes, we just came from Wendy's. It's like
Evidence.
Yeah, it's
See?
obviously been stepped on. And yeah, they just told us all to get out of the car immediately. Start searching the thing up and down, all this shit. And then there's like 3 other cop cars that come. It's all thing because people have
Hell
nothing to
yeah.
do.
And they have overkill.
Yeah, like overkill. And then our like 4 other friends meet us at the parking lot because we were supposed to meet up there. And they go, "What the fuck's happening?" And the cops are like, "Who the fuck are you?" And they were like, "Oh, we're just friends with them, and we were just coming to meet them because we were just at Quick Check." And we all start kind of like snickering a little. It's like, "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! We're gonna search this car. We're gonna find something." They start searching their car too. So we're like, "Oh no, did they buy the weed already?" And we're like, "Oh shit!"
Right.
And then he's like, "You know what? I'm calling back up again." And another car comes for backup. And the guy gets out the car and he's just like, "Hey, what's up?" Oh fuck, sorry.
I thought that was part of the story.
Yeah, I was like, "That was the worst fucking timing ever." So the cop's
I'm
like,
not editing it out.
Yeah, no. So he was just like, "I'm gonna find this fucking weed. Fuck you, kids." He's searching both cars now. He calls another car from backup. The cop gets out of the car and he goes, "What's going on? I just saw these guys at Quick Check." And we all started fucking laughing. He's like, "Get the fuck out of here! Everybody, get the fuck out of here!"
That's so funny.
And we all just went home.
Dude,
Yeah.
One time I was driving to California. I was with the band, so we're in a big van. There's like 10 people in the van, and I remember being like, "Don't fucking! We got to cross the border." There's usually a checkpoint from Arizona to California, right?
Yeah.
And so not like other states out here, no one cares, but there's an actual checkpoint, because it's on the border of Mexico too, and like, so we're in the thing, and I'm like, and I'm driving, and I'm like, nobody. I know if you guys have weed, just keep it all hidden. I don't want nothing until we get past the border of California, And of course, at the border, they pull over. There's inspection, right? It's like fuck, and there's we're in the thing. And I don't even smoke weed, so it's like I'm driving. It's like, God damn, I know these motherfuckers. They'll have weed on them. It's like, oh shit. And the guy goes, so hey, here's the deal, man. If you guys have weed on you, either way, I'm gonna find it. If it's a small enough amount, it's not that big of a deal. There was a table there. He's like, everyone just pull out give me what you got. And like I said, if it's a small enough amount, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, oh fuck, I'm so fucked. Oh, we're all fucked.
Do not volunteer.
I was
not
like,
volunteer.
and I'm like, oh god. So I'm like, I don't.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't
fucking
got no weed. And literally, every other dude goes up and like puts his little one hitter, like all 10 of them, like in a line, or like, and I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, oh god.
It's like a gun buyback program.
No, it totally is. Everyone walked up. Everyone with their head down walked up and like put their little thing. And the guy just started laughing, and he was like, "All right, get the fuck out of here, you fucking idiot!"
Oh, he really was.
And he just was like, "It was a border patrol. It wasn't even like a real cop." And but I was like, so here he's like, and he just thought and he was just like, "Get out of here!" And I was like, "That dude was just bored."
Yeah.
Because that border patrol that checkpoint is in the middle of nowhere.
I had a friend get arrested in the Canada.
Canada's way harder
Really?
than
Yeah, I've heard
the
that
state one.
too.
He isn't alive anymore, unfortunately, but he drove a fucking Crown Vic, like the most suspicious looking fucking car too. And he went back from Canada and put him in like the wheel well or like somewhere in his car.
Yeah.
And they brought a dog and found it immediately.
Oh yeah,
Wait,
I
what?
don't fuck around with the Canadian border.
Yeah.
We were dogs on the Canadian border?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's like the opposite of Mexico, where Mexico's like, yeah, come on in. It's like coming to the U.S. But in Canada, they're like, no, they held
they
us
don't
because
want
I was
you
with the
there,
band, and we were going to play shows there. We had a whole tour book. We had a
He was
Canadian
coming
booking
back, by
agent.
the way. He bought it in Canada. Was coming from
Oh,
Canada
okay.
into the U.S. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mine was going up into Canada. We didn't have anything on there because after that experience, I was like, no, when we're driving, no,
Yeah,
fucking,
yeah,
I
no
can't-
shit.
no way.
Nothing on us.
And
yeah.
so we're going across, and they held us at the border for like 4 hours. We didn't have anything. They put the dogs in. They went, but then they were like, we need to know where you're playing, who you're playing, who's your contact. Do you have permits? Let me see your merch. They held us there forever, and we had to call like our booking agent at the time lived with his parents. He was like a 19-year-old kid, and we had to call his parents' house and like, hey, we're at the border. They're not letting us cross. You need to talk to them to get him. And they were on us really hard.
Wow.
They let us across because like it was all legit.
Yeah,
but
it's
it
all
still
real.
took it took like 5 hours.
That's crazy.
We got to this kid's house at like 4:00 in the morning.
Jesus.
That's
You know,
nuts.
so it was nuts.
I've been arrested 3 times with weed or having smoked it or having it on my person and never charged with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad.
I mean, yeah, lucky me.
Yeah, no, that is.
It
lucky,
wasn't
yeah.
even because I'm white.
Can I say? Sorry, go ahead.
I like that you had to specify
Oh,
that.
no, it wasn't because of my inherent privilege.
Guilty
I was really
conscience.
sneaky. I'm like, I want to point out I was,
And
Stick it up
that's
your butt, or
because
what?
you're white.
and that's because I'm white.
You
That's right.
Oh,
sneaky.
I did want to add to the first story with the empty plastic bag. About a week later, I was looking in my car for something, and I actually ended up finding a dime bag of weed just sandwiched in between two seats.
That he didn't
So
find.
not only did they tear my car apart and not find anything, but there was something there.
Wow.
What the
Still
Lord
found nothing.
taketh away, He will give back.
Yeah, it was
Right.
great. Smoked that whole fucking thing.
It's funny when they do, because I had a buddy who got a DUI in New York, and he also was in for like a night or the weekend maybe, and then we went to pick him up, and then he got his car from the lot, and he had like half an ounce of weed in the car that was still there in
Really?
in the trunk of the car.
That's fucking
Because they're not searching it, because they didn't
That-
even pull him over for
that-
weed. They
yeah,
got him
yeah.
for drunk driving.
That
That's
makes the ending to 48 Hours a lot more believable. I don't know if you've seen that recently. I
I don't
watched it.
remember.
What's so funny about that though is like everything varies like state by state with how they treat
know.
weed
Yeah.
because like my wife and I drove cross country for our honeymoon. In certain states, we were scared as shit to be pulled over with like I had a vape
Yeah,
or whatever,
doesn't matter.
and like other places like California, Seattle, they sold it on street corners.
Yeah.
And they're like nice ass shops, like they look like Starbucks or whatever
Yeah.
of weed, and then like in another state, it's an excuse to lock away people.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's I've talked this whole time like through the thread of our podcast is like a lot of this shit is like just it seems like it's victimless and up to the person.
No, that's
You know what I mean? Like
That's
they're
why
signing
it's
people
petty.
away, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I mean
that's
that's
what it
why
is.
it's
Yeah.
petty.
it's so it's so bad because like I said, no one's ever fucking died from the shit. Why is it illegal in the first place? And now that it's like
Mhm.
becoming not illegal.
yeah.
You know, it's a very gray area. It's like even like in sports, right? Like
Yeah.
in like
NBA
it's like, why were
players
you
they know
testing
that
for that.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Didn't like Michael Phelps or something get in trouble
Well,
for testing
I-
positive?
I
for
don't-
weed?
He was ripping bongs. Like he was in a photograph. He was just
it
like,
was like
a bad example.
But they
Yeah.
were
It's
talking
It's
about like
not
taking
it's
his
gonna make
medals
you
away.
perform better in
Oh,
the sense of like,
no.
Right.
like Coke might there's a case for that.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I
There
mean?
there is a
Oh,
kid.
yeah.
But it's like weed,
Well,
like
if he was doing coke, he wouldn't have been as good a swimmer. Weed's fine.
No, well, it's like well, you know, like
Oh, but
it's
better
kind
swimmer.
it's sad because like in the UFC, Nick Diaz, who lives in California, got suspended for 5 years for weed.
really.
What?
They're like the prime of his career, 5 years for weed, and he lives in California now. UFC stopped testing for weed.
Yeah, they don't do that.
That's a
anymore.
massive punishment.
Well,
No,
too.
it like
yeah.
in the height of his career, and he's
That's
one of the
crazy.
best in the world. It like fucked him royally.
Yeah, that's wild.
And it's wild that like a couple years later, it's
And they have like Brock Lesnar in there,
The
and
motherfucker's
Cyborg, like people who
steroids,
are
yeah.
on roids actively.
Also, like fucking, I remember John Jones. He got in trouble because
Well,
he was coked out.
he got
Oh,
trouble for
yeah.
coke.
for one of his title,
Well,
one of
okay,
his
so-
title fights.
when John Jones got
His toe was
John
falling
Jones
off.
got
He didn't even know.
fucked up. He got fucked up, arrested like in his Bentley on drugs or whatever, and like
yeah. Well, he
what-
hit somebody and ran, hit and run.
Yeah, that was
okay. Well, who-
sorry.
no, it's fine. No,
we're
no,
not
no,
we're
no,
not
it's
talking
so
about a
much.
joint anymore.
He's the best piece of shit in the world.
Oh, he's
just saying,
great.
like, whose business is it of anybody's what that guy did? I
it's
just want to see him
victimless crime.
fight in a ring. I don't care what kind
No,
of
right?
person he is. I mean, are we supposed to not enable bad people?
Yeah, what's going on here?
So that being said, how would you guys rate this as a crime? as a petty crime. How do you
We've
rate
got
it?
to tell you, we rate things.
We've been rating it. So
We'll
we'll start that way.
We're a review podcast, a true crime podcast, a comedy podcast.
An advice
So
podcast.
you guys
Yeah.
are rating my crime.
No, we're rating just the crime of weed in general.
Oh, okay.
Not your personal crime, because your
okay.
personal crime was weak.
It's the most petty of all petty crimes.
It was so petty.
The pettiest
Yeah,
of crimes.
You
Yeah,
should have been
yeah.
rewarded for eating that weed.
Honestly,
by
I
the
consider skateboarding to be a worse crime.
way. Yeah, right. Exactly.
I was sitting there like, yo, I just got arrested because I studied for a test.
You got arrested for trying to be a good kid.
yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah, they'd rather have you out drinking and driving instead of smoking weed in your
Yeah.
house, playing video games,
Totally.
jerking off on your own game chair, which I stand by. I never did. I rate weed being a crime as like I guess a 2. I think like for children, you shouldn't let kids
Shocking,
have
yeah.
weed or whatever. But like I think that's after like 14, let the fucking parents decide and don't.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's all a revenue based thing. I think the original reason weed was even made illegal was to deter immigration in the early 1900s.
The Marijuana Tax Act of 1914.
And plus, hemp was a big competitor of tobacco and other shit like that. You
Right.
know? Cotton,
Right.
too, because it can be made
And-
of so many other things.
Yeah.
Honestly, I still have to give it another bear because like I hate hippies and I think it's cool. I think it's great. Like one time I saw a guy at an acoustic hookah show
That sounds awful.
get
Just-
thrown through a plate glass window for being racist, and even though he's a hippie, and they're all supposed to be inclusive, and I hate their culture. And like I like a little fascism when it comes to fucking Dave Matthews Band and his fucking acolytes. So 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Okay. What about you, Boris?
That was a lot. I mean, I rate weed as a crime, I guess. Is it the more bears? What I don't know if we're on the same.
Yeah, let's you
There's
determine.
no-
It's
Yeah,
all
let's figure out the
self-determined.
rating.
It's self-determined.
It's
All right.
self-determined. Like yeah,
As a crime, I
my
think.
standard isn't yours.
Yeah, as a crime, I think 0 out of 5 bears. As an activity, I think 5 out of 5 bears. I
As an activity.
well, I like weed. Too much of anything can be bad, but when it comes, I know I do think that people dismiss the idea of weed being addictive
Yeah,
only
anything's addictive.
because exactly anything can be
Yeah,
addictive. I
agreed.
would almost call it more of a habit, but I
Yeah.
But I do know people who, I don't know, they might be fucked up without it, but because they have it as a thing to blame it on, like I said, it can become a thing where you're like, well, I just love smoking weed, and if I wasn't smoking weed, I'd do all these things, but I smoke weed a lot, so I'm just fine doing this. And it's like, are you sure if you stopped smoking weed, you'd fix any other stuff?
Because I've stopped smoking weed before, and nothing about me changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've stopped drinking, and things have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do that periodically. But yeah, stop smoking weed. Nothing.
It's
Nothing
a good
changed
tolerance
whatsoever.
break.
Yeah,
Good old
yeah, that's
fashioned
it.
tolerance
That's really
break.
it.
So I, as a crime, I'll give it a 1. But I think that I think that in any state that it's legal now, you should let anyone with marijuana offenses either out of jail or significantly reduce sentences.
Yeah.
Like, I think anyone that's in jail for weed in a state that is legal should be let out. I mean,
mean, if
unless they kill someone while on
Exactly,
weed, whatever.
yeah,
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Things, but if it's weed charges, they should be out of
Nonviolent,
jail.
If it's just weed, totally agree.
They should
Yeah.
also be compensated for the time that they spent within jail.
Right? How do you
Yeah,
fix that if
I
you're
agree.
admitting? Well, that's a tough one, I will say, because
They absolutely should. Be.
they're I agree in principle, but legally, we changed the law, but you still broke the law that we knew existed. So it creates this whole
Yeah.
Unwrap-
I think there's some sort of retroactive
Yeah.
situation where it's like, okay, it became legal in 2020, and you didn't get out of you didn't get out of jail till 2024. You should be compensated for the time that it was legal.
That's
Yeah.
fair,
Maybe
yeah.
before, no, because it wasn't.
or just I don't know what compensated means, but we
I'm
should
saying
we
like
should
an
do
actual-
something where we
like an
try
actual,
to
like a monthly stipend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That's
either
kinda
paying
what I
them
meant,
or
yeah.
giving them
I agree with that.
certain and certain states are doing this, like giving ex-cons certain breaks in creating their own businesses for this shit.
that I
because
have heard.
That's
yeah.
really what they were. They were business owners for
Absolutely.
a crime that was effectively victimless
Right.
anyway. Or if you're not going to do that, you should at least, as soon as they are released, they get stock options or pieces of whatever.
An actual weed
stock or a
company.
piece of business. Yeah.
They should get a
And
gift.
and the compensation comes from that and just the stock market.
They
Yeah.
should get a gift box from dankstop.com.
They should get
Agreed.
free Seth Rogen movies for the rest of their life.
As an activity, I say 0 bears because weed people are mad annoying.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that.
Weed people are so annoying. Yeah, I don't smoke weed. I never had. It's boring. But nowadays, weed people are so specific,
Weed
and
is
so everyone
boring.
is like, "Oh, it's a this, it's a that." I can't stand it. 0 to hang out with weed people.
As a personality, I agree. It's 0 out of 5 bears. But everyone smokes weed is the thing. There's weed
it's great.
people,
Yeah, yeah.
and then
I mean,
there's
yeah, I know.
My
everybody
mom
else.
still doesn't. She's holding out.
My mom doesn't either. Also, my family's Jamaican. I should have told you guys that from the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And even they, like, my family's super Christian and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's with like Jamaican culture is so. What the fuck was that? Is that a burp?
Derek's over in the corner. I am bumba clot.
You stopped yourself so early. You were gonna do it, and then you backed out.
If you would have
so
committed
quickly.
to it.
Yeah, it would have been fine. It would have just been laughed off and fine.
Oh,
What the
yo.
fuck was that?
He canceled. He canceled himself mid microaggression.
You were like,
I
no.
stand by it. It was appropriately
Spot
timed.
on. I feel like my grandmother's right in the room with me. That's perfect.
That's what white people do. Is they pander.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
He was really just trying to hype you up
I do appreciate it.
because
to
it's
some
your
level.
turn to review. You know.
Yes.
So wait, did you mean that your family's Jamaican, and despite that, there you have like an unfamiliarity with weed?
Kind of, and they just, I mean, like the younger kids, smoke it and shit.
Right.
My cousins, sure. And I have some like relatives that are like Rasta, like Rastafarian and stuff. But a lot of people in like Jamaica, especially like at the time, I think my mom and other people were born, like that generation. Like a lot of them are very, very religious and shit
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it's like you're either Rasta's a religion too, and a lot of them can be very devout. But that's a different like it is still Christianity, but it's like a different sect type of thing.
It is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm
it's,
gonna
it's still
convert.
Christianity.
I know there's a lot of like
Convert
Old
from
Testament,
Catholic.
because there's a lot of stuff that's like similar language to Judaism in Rasta.
Yeah. It's like it's just a sect
Well,
of
the
Christianity,
Israelites.
like,
yeah, that's the whole thing. The
like
12
Lutheran
the 12 tribes.
or
Yeah.
fucking whatever.
Yep.
So how would you rate them?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I know. I'm very long-winded with it. I would rate fucking weed. I give it 5 fucking bears.
Right,
all
yeah,
around.
yeah,
Crime 0 bears. Jamaican weed. I give it a question mark because I've never smoked weed in Jamaica. I need to go.
I
we
have.
smuggled
From what I
it.
remember, it wasn't. Most places, honestly, outside of America, where
don't
I've
have
smoked,
incredible. Yeah.
I've
We do everything so great.
Well, we
Yeah.
really we put
USA.
money behind
USA,
shit. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
manufacturing.
it's
know.
we got
It's
people
like-
There's
growing it
nerds,
in
like-
labs.
Yeah.
But, like-
I heard like
In Thailand, I got fucking like wild like Thai sticks, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's just like the worst. Some of the worst I've had was I backpacked Europe with some buddies of mine.
I heard
and-
Europe has trash, bud.
They have hash in places, but for the most part, the weed is terrible. And I
It's
remember
dog shit,
specifically in I think it was Croatia. We bought weed off somebody, and it was literally the 4 of us stood on a cliffside and smoked. I think like at least half an ounce, and just mostly got headaches. Like it
That's
just
true.
looked like
Ugh,
fucking
yeah,
trash.
I
the
should
worst.
know, like, why is the weed so bad in like Europe specifically?
Yeah.
Well, did you
I
ever?
think they just don't have the
Get it.
culture. Well, Amsterdam has good weed, obviously.
They're happy enough with their lives that they don't need to make super weed.
They don't have that American depression.
Right,
We got
yeah.
so-
They don't have to like
Listen,
put tattoos on their fucking face and drink cough syrup and smoke them.
I think they just don't have what
medicinal weed.
America's got. Because you know what? They don't have super weed, but they also don't have a fucking Apple computers. They're not making a fucking Facebook over there. They're not making any of the shit that we're making.
It sounds
Take our
great.
shit.
Exactly.
They're probably also not obese. I'm gonna look into this. You
I
know
wanna
what?
know.
I need to go on vacation.
to Europe.
Yeah,
I want to go to
Europe.
Prague. I
Beautiful.
Prague's
met
beautiful.
two girls out there and shit. Like,
Oh, yeah?
Like last year at the end, like right before the pandemic started, like a couple months before.
You were
Yeah.
in Prague?
No, I just met them here.
Oh,
in,
okay.
In New York. and now they're back out there. But
Dude,
still
Prague's
been
like
talking to 'em.
Prague's a top 10 city in the world for me.
That's what I fucking
Gorgeous.
heard.
Yeah, I'm
I
going
agree.
back
Fucking
to
These
beautiful.
girls are hot too.
find my kids. All right, this has been the Bushwick Bears Petty Crime Review.
Great job.
Hell
Where can they find you? What's your stuff?
Oh yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Phil Rizdon or on Instagram at Grove Street Comedy. And I have my show House Party, which is officially back at Tiny Cupboard in Bushwick.
Oh, yeah.
Every Saturday at 8 p.m. So
Awesome.
come by.
Hell
and
yeah.
Follow my Instagram for more info. Cool.
Awesome.
Sick.
Bushwick.